Okay, so today I'm going to be going through my colour grading process. Here I've got 5 clips of just some desert here, time lapse of a city here, and a river that's not at the right frame size, so we'll just quickly set to frame size. Lose a bit of quality there, but it's okay because this is just a tutorial. So to get things started, we're going to start with this clip, and this was actually shot for my short film Knife, and in this part it was actually a kind of night look, so we're going to try and replicate a sort of day to night here. So the effect you're going to need is Lumetri colour, and now what you could do is just grab this and apply it onto the footage, which is fine, but I'm just going to delete that because actually I'm going to click on this new thing here and then adjustment layer and click OK, and now I'm going to drag this onto the top of my footage, stretch it out to the same length, and we can edit this, and whatever we do to this will happen to the one below. Oops, I mean to do that. So now when we go into effects and we put a Lumetri colour onto our adjustment layer, if we just go into basic correction, you can see that this is affecting the layer below as well. And you can put multiple layers underneath it, you can stretch it off so it goes on this clip as well. So that just gives you an idea of how that works. So if you have a LUT pack, you can click Input LUT, Browse, and I'm just going to find mine here in Colour, LUT pack, and I actually have a day to night LUT, and if you want to find that, there'll be a link into the description where you can get that for free. So I'm just going to double click this, and you can see now we have a day to night look, but it's really bringing out the reds, and I don't like that much. So you can see it's making a bit of a difference there. So we're going to still do some changes down here because a LUT is not a finished look. You need to still tweak things to try and get the perfect result. So we need to do some more. So I might add in some more contrast to make it look a bit darker. That looks quite cool. I want to take the temperature down a little bit to make it a bit cooler. So that actually looks really good. I like the reflections that we're getting, so let's just take that to a nice -80. And we can take the highlight. If you see, if we push the highlights up, it creates a sort of glow there that doesn't look very realistic. But I do want to sort of emphasize the highlights because that is where the main action is, and our eyes will be naturally drawn in to the lighter areas. So by boosting this lighter bit here, we bring our eyes to this sort of figure in the window. Shadows, I always like to crank these down quite a lot, so maybe -30, because that gives us nice deep shadows, which looks really good. Whites, we'll push them up a tiny bit, so maybe like 5, and blacks will take down quite a lot to -20, -15, and that's looking pretty cool. We've got quite a nice cinematic look. We can go into our colour wheels, and we can now work on the shadows, midtones, and highlights. So in this particular thing here, I'm going to amp up my highlights a bit and take them towards a sort of warmer look, and that looks quite cool. Midtones we'll just leave where they are for now, and shadows, I like blue shadows, that's a bit too much, so we'll drag that down a bit so it's not as strong, if we can select it. Oh god, that's a bit too much. There, and then drag this down so it's not as intense, and actually drag this back to the middle a bit more. And we'll make these highlights more intense because there isn't much light in our grade. But you can see we've got a really cool looking look, and you can just about make out the figure there. Mid-tone, since it's quite dark, I'm going to boost these just a little bit, adding a bit more orange. That looks good. And then we'll move this up slightly to get a nice warm look over here. We can add a vignette, so we'll turn that up a bit. And this, oops, turn it down, -5. And basically this will darken out the edges of the screen. Again, bringing your eyes in to the action, so we're focused on this midpoint here. Roundness, I like to move that up because I quite like a round vignette, and feather, it always looks a lot better when you've got a lot of feathering because it blends into the piece. And vignettes only work if you can't see that they're there. I'm going to actually turn this to -3 because we've literally completely blacked out the corners here. Another step that you can do to make your piece look, or your clip look loads more cinematic, is to use black bars. Now the normal way to do this would be to edit the size of the frame, but I have a perfect image of black bar, and if you Google one you can probably find one as well. It's a bit small, you can see if we just turn that off, it's too small. So we need to right click on it and go set to frame size, and the quality of that doesn't matter because it's just a black bar. And it's quite hard to see it, but you can see the difference that makes, and it just makes a nicer shape to your clip. So that looks quite cool, and we'll just make that the same length. So going back into Lumetri, that's really all we need. You can use a curve, but normally I just use the colour wheels, and that works quite well for me. So now we'll move on to our next clip, which is quite a different clip. It's also for knife, and this time let's see what we can do with it. So we'll create another adjustment layer. You might want to rename these just to keep organised, but nobody ever actually does that. So I'll name that one Clip 1, because that's the first one. Name this one Clip 2, and then we'll use that here, like so. And then we will add Lumetri Colour. And if you do type in Lumetri, you see all these LUTs already inside Premiere, so you might want to have a go at trying out some of them. So we'll just apply that to that, go into Effect Controls, and we can start tweaking it. So in my LUTs, I'm going to browse. For this, I quite like this magic. It looks kind of greeny. I like the tint on that. So tint will actually emphasize the green just a little bit more by turning that to -10, because tint is green on the low end and purple on the high end. Temperature is cold blue down here and orangey hot up here in the high end. Exposure wise, turn that down a bit, not that much, maybe -1. Contrast, I always like that turned up quite a lot because it creates a more sort of dynamic piece. Highlights will boost them as well because you can see that floor is quite white, so that'll be cool. Shadows, we want to take these down, not that much, -50. And whites we can take up a tiny bit to like 25, and we can take blacks down to -25, so doing the complete opposite. Then we'll go into our colour wheels, and since we've got quite a greeny look, we're going to take our shadows, once again making them a bit bluer, and then selecting that and moving the strength of that down a lot, so about there. Highlight we'll take to a greeny look. You can see that's really boosting our green, so actually, again, I want to take this down a bit, or a lot more, like that. And mid-tones, in this case, I'll go for sort of in the middle, maybe more slightly towards the green, to create a balance between the two. And we'll move this down again because we don't want this to be too intense. Go into our vignette, we'll take the amount to -3, that's 5. Take the roundness up, and that looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. Once again, we'll grab our widescreen bar, make it so it takes up the whole clip, and set to frame size. And now we have two really cool cinematic looking, oh god, I think we went a bit too much down here. And there's quite a lot of contrast, so grading is all about just making sure you get the right amount and playing around to see what results you can get. And once again, I'll turn my feather up to 100. And actually, I'll turn the roundness down to like maybe 10, and we'll turn the amount down to -1 or up. And we'll boost the shadows a bit more. Like that. So that looks quite cool. Now, this is just some stock footage of a desert. So we'll work on this now. I'm just going to cheat and use that for our adjustment layer. And then we can go into effects, add in Lumetri color, and start tweaking this. So I'm going for an orange and teal look on this because we've got the blue of the sky and this is sort of an orangey desert. And if you don't know what the orange and teal look, it's a colour set of complementary colours, which is orange and teal. So let's try and work on that. Here I'm going to use a speed grade, which is basically just my basic grade to get a cool starting point. Oh god, we turned that off. There we go. And now we can start working on that. Now here we really want to use the colour wheels and maybe even the HSL secondary, so we can pick the blue of the sky, show mask, so you get to see that up there, and then we can maybe widen this a bit. Turn the mask off, and you can, the cool thing about this is you can add colours, so you can try and select more. And we can try and get a cool like sort of selection of the sky. So if we just grab different parts of it, I don't want to grab the clouds because that might take some white in the rest of it. Show mask again. Okay, that looks okay. Then we'll blur it to like 10. Maybe not, maybe like 0. Doesn't look like it needs much blur. And then we can use the three-way colour corrector to correct it, so we'll really drag it down to the highlights, like so. And we'll boost that up a lot. So that just really brings out the sky. And now we can work in here. Now we've marked around with the sky, we can take the highlights up a lot to a blue colour. We can take the shadows to an orange. And you can see we're really getting like a sort of difference. The orange a bit more maybe, and maybe more to the red, so we get less green. And for the midtones, I think I'm going to take this down a bit because it's a bit too strong. So maybe like down there, and we'll move more towards the orange as well. And you can see we've got a bit of noise in the shadows, so we'll denoise slightly. And also blur. There we go. And that looks quite cool. I'm going to turn up the contrast to maybe 15. Maybe 30. Just to get some of those darks up even darker. And we'll take the blacks down as well. And all round that looks like a pretty cool piece. So we'll put our widescreen bar on again and set to frame size. There we go. Okay, so we've got 2 more clips now. This is our time-lapse city, and then we'll do some cool water. So for this, I want to do quite a subtle change because it already looks quite good. So we'll drag on our adjustments layer, add on Lumetri color, and we'll start in basic correction. This time I'm going to use Moonlight. And already, with this particular LUT, it's done a pretty good job, but I want to take up the exposure a bit. Not that much. To try and get some of the highlights in that shadow and some of these lights down here. Because we've got some nice lens flares down here, and I like that. We'll take the contrast up as well, like so, maybe to 50. Highlights, again, want to really boost them to make them as crazy as possible. So you can see we're really boosting the lights in the cars, the reflections on the water, and that sunset. And now that we've done that, we actually want to turn our contrast up a bit, so we're really emphasising on these lights that I like. I'm not going to do much playing around with colour on this one, because I just want to focus on some of the bits down here, and we've created a really nice look, which is a lot more subtle. And we'll put our widescreen bar on, and that looks lots better. Okay, so now we've got our final clip. Create the adjustment layer, add on Lumetri Color. Now for water, if we go into our looks here, I'm not going to use Alt. I think I'm going to use Moonlight again, because that works really well. Temperature-wise, we'll warm it up a bit maybe, because the blue's a bit too much. And actually, maybe not that. Might want to go with speed grade, just so it's not too much. And we'll boost the temperature, because this is quite a sunny location, so it wants to appear nice and warm. So 25 maybe. Tint will leave, and then contrast, once again, I want to turn this up, go crazy to start with. 500, that looks good, but a bit intense, so we'll take it down to 75. And we can get some darks in the water, which is create a nice contrast. Highlights, I always like to boost these a little bit to get some of the whites in the cliff maybe. Shadows, we'll take these down so you can see we've got a shadow here. So I'm going to try and make that pure black, which looks pretty good. Whites, boost, and shadows take down, and I like keeping them at the same amount. And actually, already there, we've got quite a cool look. So finally, we will add in our widescreen bar. Okay, so we have our clips color graded, and we can just look at them before and after. So before and after and before. So this is really flat, but now we've got lots of depth and nice colour in it, and it looks quite warm. So this time we got that, and finally from that to that. Another good thing to do, if maybe something's a bit too intense, like on this one, sorry, we can go into the opacity and take that down a bit, so we don't have as an intense a look. And actually this is automatically keyframed, so we'll take that off. Maybe do 75%, 90, so it's not as straight up in your face. This one looks quite good. You want to take the opacity down, and also when doing that, moving this doesn't mean you've selected this adjustment layer. You need to click on it and move your thing to it so you can see what's going on. Right, 80 on this one. You can see that you need quite high numbers up here for it to make much of a difference. You can also see it's making a keyframe again. But all round, that looks quite good. And I'm pleased with the result we've got with this colour grading. So that's all from me. See you next week.